What the hell is ChatGPT? Isn't that just for people who want to cheat in their dissertations? Is there an ethical way to use ChatGPT in your dissertation? Everyone's talking about ChatGPT in academia with mixed emotions, from curiosity through excitement to downright worried for my job kind of fear. Yeah, that was me. And I've got to admit, my initial response was the latter. I was like, OMG, evil robots coming to take over the world. But now I've had a chance to experiment a little bit with ChatGPT and really give it some thought. I'm of the view that it can be used ethically. And we're going to be doing a bit of a deeper dive into that in this video. Here's what we'll be covering. First up, what the hell is ChatGPT anyway? Isn't it just like Google? Secondly, what's the best way to use ChatGPT ethically as a dissertation student? We'll then look at 5 key things that ChatGPT can be super useful for if you're doing a dissertation. Narrowing down your topic, structuring your literature review, beginning to understand concepts and theories that you're stuck on, thinking through the options for your methodology, developing your recruitment materials. That's the really bloody good bit, so stick around for that. For those of you who are new to my channel, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and I've spent the last 20 years working as an academic in UK universities. Dissertations are totally my jam. I absolutely love helping students with them, and that's why I set up this channel about all things dissertation. And the topic that I'm covering today is one that I feel super excited about. I haven't been this excited about a piece of tech since I learned how to do citation searches using Google Scholar. And that must have been in like 2009 or something. That was an amazing day. And that probably tells you all you really need to know about me. So without further ado, let's crack on. First up, what the hell is ChatGPT? Isn't it just like Google? Okay, so ChatGPT is a chatbot. That means that you ask it questions and it provides you with answers to those questions. In order to give you an answer, it looks through all of the information that it has access to, and it summarises that information for you in a short, concise, well-structured answer that is fairly easy to digest. And that's where it's different from Google, because it goes one step further than Google. You can type a question into Google and Google will throw up a list of search results like websites, videos, whatever, some of which might contain information that answers your question. But you've got to go and sort through all of that. You've got to visit those websites, you've got to watch those videos and the annoying ads that pop up halfway through them. And you know what? Even after doing all of that stuff, you might not have an answer to your question and you'll be annoyed because that's hours of your life that you're never going to get back. However, with a chatbot like ChatGPT, you don't have to do that because this nifty little bit of tech does it all for you. It sorts through everything it knows, all of the information it has access to. It figures out which bits of that information you need, and then it answers the specific question that you've asked. And from having used ChatGPT for a fair few weeks now, I can tell you that it is better than other kinds of chatbot because you can talk to it in everyday language. You don't have to warp your questions into these weird sounding terms that just don't feel natural to you. And it tends to reply to you in everyday language too, which is great. And for a robot, it's quite nice. It's actually polite, more polite than many people. Now all of this sounds great, doesn't it? Yay, embrace the evil robots. Now, in all seriousness, the main question that I'm being asked by students and academics, the ones who aren't hiding under their desks and hoping this all just goes away, is this ethical? Can we use ChatGPT in a way that doesn't compromise our morals and integrity? In other words, is this just for people who want to cheat at their dissertations, or are there nicer, more wholesome uses for it? And I would say yes, ChatGPT can be used in nice, wholesome ways, and it's all in the way you approach it. You need to think about ChatGPT like a virtual dissertation assistant, a little helper. It's there to give you a hand and help you out with things in the same way that a personal assistant would. It's not there to write your dissertation for you, and you shouldn't ask it to do that, because it's a really nice, polite, people-pleaser kind of personal assistant. If you ask it to write your dissertation, God bless it, it's going to give it a go, because it wants to help you. So it will try to write your dissertation, but it's not going to do a very good job of it. Because when it comes to your dissertation, you are the expert, and it is just your assistant. It's going to help you develop your expertise. It's going to help you apply that expertise, and it's going to give you some helpful suggestions. But you need to draw on all of the valuable knowledge that you already have from years of having studied your subject, because the context, the nuances, the inside track, the stuff you've learned from your real human professors, there is no replacement for that. And thinking of an example to illustrate this, if you imagine that you are a really senior lawyer, you are someone who's been to law school, got all their qualifications, and you've been practicing law for decades. You've covered hundreds of cases and you've worked with thousands of clients. You know your stuff. Now, imagine that you take on a new case and you're like, oh, I really can't be bothered with this. So you call your personal assistant or secretary into your office and you say to them, here you go, you deal with this one, I'm off to the Maldives for 3 weeks. Yeah, that ain't gonna end well. Now, don't get me wrong, your PA or secretary is smart. They are your right-hand person. They can find out the basics, they know some of the processes, but they don't have the depth of knowledge and the experience that you do. They don't understand the context, they don't understand the nuances, because they don't have the same expertise as you. They don't have the same unique genius as you. And this is how you should think of ChatGPT. It's there to assist you as you go about your work. It is not there to do your work for you. And you shouldn't ask it to do that either. If you think of ChatGPT like an assistant, you're approaching it in an ethical way. You are staying in integrity. So yes, it can be used ethically, and full disclosure, I think you should use it to help you, because goodness me, I'm going to use it to help with my research. Hell yes. So what parts of your work can it assist you with? In a moment, we're going to look at the 5 things that ChatGPT can help you with. But first things first, before we do that, if you're going to try ChatGPT, you need to set up an account. So here's how you do that. You go to this link, which I will also put in the description, and then you click on sign up, enter your email address or log in with Google or your Microsoft account, and boom, done. Now let's take a look at 5 ways in which you can use ChatGPT morally, ethically, with academic integrity to help you with your dissertation. First up, narrowing down your topic. Now, many dissertation students start out with a super broad topic that is way too big, and they need to refine it to narrow it down to make it more niche. Let's see what we can do with ChatGPT here. So this is what you'll see when you're all logged in to ChatGPT. And very simply, you just type your question into this search bar at the bottom here. So let's see if ChatGPT can help us narrow down our dissertation topic. Let's imagine that I am a sociology student and I want to do my dissertation on hate crime. So let's ask ChatGPT to help us do this, to narrow down this topic. So I'm probably going to type in something like this. I am a sociology student and I want to do my dissertation on hate crime. However, if I can spell that properly, my supervisor says this is too broad a topic and I need to narrow it down and get more specific. Can you help me do this? What could I do my dissertation on? Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it's already giving us some options as to how we can narrow down that particular dissertation topic. It's saying that hate crimes can take many different forms, and it gives us some ideas as to particular varieties of hate crime to look at. It then says you might want to examine the social and psychological factors that contribute to hate crime. So that's another angle we could take as well. Thirdly, it advises that we might want to look at legislation and policies. Fourthly, it suggests looking at the impact of hate crime on different communities. And then it suggests that we might also want to consider looking at the role of the media in perpetuating hate crimes. So there already, it's given us some food for thought. It's given us something to think about. So what we need to do with this information is go away and think about it. Talk to our supervisor about it. Consider those different options and whether we want to go for any of them. But so far, so good, right? That's probably flagged up a few things that we might not have considered before. So Thanks, ChatGPT. Good job. Next up, how can we use it to help us with our literature review? So say we've decided to explore how hate crime affects a particular community, and we've picked the LGBTQ plus community. We are ready to begin our literature review now. But before we get going, we want to develop an outline. We want to map out some provisional key themes and headings to give our literature review some direction and structure. Can ChatGPT help us with this? Let's take a look. So how we go about doing this is we tell ChatGPT what we're doing our dissertation on, and we tell it that we need some help with our literature review. So let's say, thank you. Important to be polite. I know it's only a robot, but hey, thank you. I want to do my dissertation on experiences of hate crime among the LGBTQ plus community. I want to get started on my literature review, but I don't know how to structure that. Could you help me generate an initial list of themes or headings to explore? And let's see what it comes back with. So it's telling us that we might want to look at definitions of hate crime to begin with. Secondly, look at the historical and legal context, then look at the prevalence and the incidence of hate crime, look at the characteristics of the people who are affected by that particular type of crime, the impact of it. It's also suggesting that we look at intersectionality. So that's how different social divisions overlap and intersect to create particular experiences of it. And perhaps look at responses and coping strategies as well. So these are some really useful themes to begin with. They are something that could really help us structure our literature review and give us some clues about what we can start reading to begin with. And I would ask ChatGPT one more question here. So we've got our outline structure there that we can use, our provisional structure that we can begin to work with, but we want some actual academic sources. We want some academic literature to get our teeth into. So let's ask ChatGPT to help us with that. So I say, that's great. Can you suggest some academic literature that I can get started with? It's thinking about it. There we go. It's coming back with some results here. So we can see that it's suggesting that we read specific journal articles, specific book chapters, and some of this stuff looks really interesting. It looks like it's the kind of stuff that we really should be looking at when we're doing a literature review on this. And I can see, having some experience of research in this area, because I do some teaching on this in my day job, some of these references, some of these names sound familiar to me. They are names that come from that particular field, that particular area of research. So this is a great place to get started with. So you can have a look through those references, you can find some of those items, and you can use that as your starting point. All good. We've got some literature there to get started with. We've got an outline structure. That was helpful. Fabulous. One thing I really want to stress here, though, is that this outline structure that ChatGPT has suggested is a starting point. It's a great framework to work from, but you now need to figure out whether that's sensible for your dissertation, whether that includes everything that your literature review needs to cover. You do that by brainstorming, by spending time away from your computer thinking about it, by talking to your supervisor. You might get to a point where you want to become even more specific with your title and perhaps start exploring LGBTQ plus people's experiences of hate crime in a particular city or region. That's going to involve a bit more digging in the literature and a bit more of your own thinking in bringing that together with the things that you've already read about. Our literature reviews should be incremental, with one section building on the sections we've already mapped out. And in my experience so far, ChatGPT isn't all that great at doing that. Because it's not a human, it's a robot. It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. It's not like you. It doesn't have your unique genius and your expertise. It's not a sociologist or a criminologist or a psychologist like you are. So it lacks the experience, the nuances, the context that you've built up about your subject. So that structure is not a prescription. You are not married to it. You can change it and supplement it and shift it around if the order doesn't work for you. Also, as good as ChatGPT is, it's not bang up to date either. So if a huge big deal thing has happened in your subject area in the last 18 months or so, it's probably not going to know about that. That might be something like a big case or a change to the law or a significant social or cultural event. You've got to integrate that stuff yourself. So off we go to read through some of these items of literature that it's recommended, and we're going to supplement that by finding more literature using citation searching and bibliographic mining. Here's a video on how to do that if you're interested. But our literature review is well underway, all good. But what if we get stuck on a particular concept or theory that we don't quite understand? What if the literature we're reading isn't being particularly helpful in explaining that in an accessible and relatable way? Because it is academic literature after all, and sometimes it doesn't always give us the simplest explanations. Can ChatGPT help us out here? Let's have a look. So one of the theories that you might come across if you were doing research in this area and reviewing the literature is a theory called queer theory. You might have read some of these pieces of research, but none of them have really kind of explained to you what queer theory is in accessible, relatable terms. So you might want to ask ChatGPT to help you out with that. So you might type in something like this. Thank you, that was really helpful. And I've read some of these items. However, I'm not too sure what queer theory is. It's come up a lot in this literature, and I need some help understanding it. Can you explain it to me? And let's see what it comes back with. So what it's giving us here is a broad overview of queer theory, a summary of the key characteristics of queer theory in terms of what it looks at, in terms of how this body of theory developed, and in terms of how it can be applied. But you don't want to be using this in your actual thesis. You want to be drawing on some academic sources because, you know, you can't quote ChatGPT in your reference list. That's kind of not okay because it's not considered to be a peer-reviewed source. It's just something that is summarizing what is already out there. It's summarizing the information that it already has access to. But we want to be using academically valid literature. So let's ask it to help us do that. So I'd say, thank you, that's a great summary, and I understand this a bit better now. Can you tell me some academic sources I can go to read more about queer theory and to cite in my dissertation? And it's coming up with a list of items that we can go and read. Now, again, there are some really useful sources there. So Eve Kosofsky-Sedgwick is very much an authority in queer theory. Judith Butler, very well-renowned gender theorist. Foucault as well. So some of the results that it's returning
are really great results. They are valid results. These books, these sources are definitely ones that I would expect to see referenced when somebody was talking about queer theory. So far, so good. So these are some things that you can go and do some further reading around to get a better understanding of queer theory. So ChatGPT has given us the overview, has given us the summary. We now need to go and dive into the detail ourselves.
Okay, so ChatGPT is helpful there too, isn't it? There was a concept or a theory that we were stuck on that we didn't understand, and ChatGPT gave us a high level overview. We get the basics of it now, and we need to go and read some of the academic literature on it. And ChatGPT has helpfully pointed us towards some good sources there. Yay. What else can it do? Can it help us with the next chapter of our dissertation, the methodology? Let's have a look.
Let's now ask ChatGPT to help us choose a method to use in our dissertation. So say we want to go and actually do a study about people's experiences of hate crime in this area. And we're thinking about what kind of method could we use? What kind of technique could we use? What could a piece of research actually look like? So let's ask ChatGPT about that. So I've said, thanks, I'm ready to start developing my methodology chapter now. Can you suggest some potential methods I could use in my study? Let's see what comes back. So it's telling us some of the actual methods that we could potentially use in a piece of research on this topic. It's suggesting interviews, surveys, focus groups, content analysis, case studies. And it's saying that these are just a few potential methods, but they are things that we can start thinking about. It's given us some options to consider. It's telling us some of the benefits of these particular methods. So we've got somewhere to get started now in terms of thinking about our methods. What I do now is go and look at some of the academic literature around the methods that it's suggested to dive into it in a little bit more detail. So let's say that we're interested in doing an interview study. So let's ask it to recommend some reading for us to do around interviews. So I'm saying now, thanks. I think I want to do interviews. Can you recommend some social science research methods, academic sources to help me with that? And it should suggest some research methods literature. So it's thinking really hard about this one. And hopefully it's going to come back with some actual sources. So let's see what it returns. Oh, I think we've tired it out. Oh no, there it is. It took a while. And I think it takes a little bit longer the more detailed you get with your questions, the more you dive into some of these answers that it gives you, the more you probe it, essentially. And looking at some of the things that it's come back with, interestingly, Steiner Cavalli's book, Interviews, is a book that I recommend all the time to students who are doing this kind of study. So I'm quite impressed with this list. Rubin and Rubin is another one that I would recommend. It's also thrown in a couple of other items that are more general items about qualitative methods more broadly, which are also going to be helpful to look at because there will be chapters in those books about interviews. So it's given us some good sources to go on there.
Is there no end to the non-cheating ways in which ChatGPT can help us with our dissertation? How about something a bit different? Let's say we're a bit further ahead now. We've designed our interview study, we've got ethical approval, and we're ready to recruit some participants. One thing we might do is write a Facebook post telling people about our research and inviting potential participants to have an interview with us. No, it couldn't possibly help us with that. Or can it? Let's give it a whirl.
Let's ask if it can help us develop a Facebook post to recruit participants. So here goes. I'm ready to start designing my research materials now, and I need your help in generating some text to go into a Facebook post to recruit participants. Can you do this for me? And it says, sure, here's an example of a Facebook post that you could use to recruit participants. So let's have a look at what it's generated here. I'd say that this is quite standard. It's explaining what the research study is about. It's inviting people to participate, looking at some of the language that it's using. It is quite kind of human in its language. We would love to hear from you. And it doesn't sound too robotic. So that's actually quite helpful. That is a good place to start, I think, in terms of designing that kind of post. But I think it is lacking in some of the things that I think are important when you're designing materials to recruit participants. I think it's really important that you communicate with participants using some of their own frustrations, their own language, some of their own emotions and feelings relating to their experiences. So I'm going to see if ChatGPT can actually help me to do that. That's great, but I think it needs to connect better with potential participants. It would be good if the text were to include some examples of feelings, experiences, and emotions in the words of the people affected by this crime. Now, let's see if it actually comes back with anything for this. Wow. Now, what it's come back with here is really interesting. It has actually taken our request and it's generated some actual quotes, or what appear to be some actual quotes from people who've been affected by these types of crime. It's quite relatable. It's something that's going to resonate with our potential participants. So this really is quite a sophisticated piece of technology. And when it comes to things like designing materials for recruitment, you definitely want to play around with it a little bit more. Ask it to be more specific. Ask it to do things like give you some quotes and put things in the words of the potential participants. Ask it to talk about the effects of particular crimes or particular experiences on the people that you're interested in researching with, because I think this is the sort of thing that it can be particularly helpful for. Because as researchers, sometimes it is very difficult to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of our participants, especially before we've even started researching with them. So this is a tool that is potentially valuable for that.
That's pretty awesome, isn't it? When you use ChatGPT in an ethical, non-cheaty kind of way, I think that there are some great opportunities here, especially when it comes to developing participant recruitment materials in ways that are going to boost our response rates and get more people excited about our research, more people invested in our research. I've actually gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with this one, so I'm going to be doing another video about it that goes into way more detail in the not too distant future, so look out for that one. All in all, I'm quite impressed so far. ChatGPT really is a great virtual assistant for dissertation students. And as long as you think of it in that way, you won't go far wrong. It is there to assist you. It is not there to write your dissertation for you. Here are the key takeaways from this little exercise. ChatGPT can help us narrow down our options in terms of a dissertation topic, but we are ultimately the ones who choose what we do. It can assist us in outlining and structuring particular sections of our dissertation, but we then need to sense check that, to talk to our supervisor, to do more reading, and then write it up in our own words. It can be useful for understanding things we've got stuck on, and it can point us towards academic literature that will help us. But only through our own efforts can we genuinely understand those things. ChatGPT isn't going to implant understanding in our brain. Well, not yet it isn't. Ooh, evil robots. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you feel a bit more confident and a bit less grubby about using ChatGPT to help you with your dissertation. I have a whole load of other videos about all things dissertation on my channel, and here are a couple that you might want to check out, and there are a few more in the description. If this kind of stuff is your jam, then like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, knock yourself out, because I have a feeling I'll be doing quite a few more videos about the whole AI thing. I will catch you later. And beware the evil robot.